Hello and welcome back to Inversion Addicts. Today we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 lost rides of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So that can include a ride or attraction that no longer operates at the park. So let's get into it. So coming in at number 10, it's the not so long forgotten Bling. Bling opened to the public on the 1st of June 2004 and was created by German company Zierer. It was an intense flat ride which featured 6 gondolas, each seating 5 people. The ride would spin riders in 3 different directions at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour and hitting positive G-forces of up to 3. The ride was located next to the Pepsi Max Big One and was removed at the end of the 2011 season to make way for the Gerstlauer Skyfly that we now know as Red Arrow's Skyforce. Now compared to the quality and class of rides that we have at the Pleasure Beach, of course Bling was never going to last, but I do remember in my younger days turning up at the Pleasure Beach and it was another great flat ride to experience at the park. For those who didn't get to ride it or want to experience Bling again, the ride is now in operation over at Fantasy Island in Skegness and is now named Turbulence. So next up, and coming in at number 9, it's the classic walkthrough attraction, Trauma Towers. Opening in the park in 1980, Trauma Towers was a walkthrough attraction based around an old, haunted hotel, which also happened to be the name of the ride upon opening. It was initially a walk-through funhouse attraction until it was renovated in 1999 and renamed Trauma Towers. After reopening, the ride was enhanced with a flat ride created by Tegeda and was located at the end scene in the baronial dining hall. The flat ride served as a finale where guests would be sat round a round table in near darkness, and the flat ride would of course spin with visual effects, giving the impressions of ghosts flying around the room with you. The ride's final season was in 2008 and was left standing but not operating for some years, although some of the scenes were reused in the ghost train next door. Unfortunately, the building was demolished fully in 2018 to make way for further developments, along with another classic ride that we're going to get to later on in the video. So coming in at number 8, it's one of my childhood favourites, Turtle Chase. Or depending on how old you are, perhaps you know this ride as Bug Tumble. Turtle Chase was created by the US manufacturer Traver Engineering Company in, would you believe it, 1935. It was a simple but thrilling ride for the kiddies and operated in the park for 70 years. The ride was removed in 2005 and the plot stood vacant until the construction of Icon begun much later in 2018. Although it was classed as one of the children's rides, I still remember to this day flying round over the hump and was no doubt one of the early rides that got me started as a thrill seeker. So coming in for me at number 7, it's the greatest show on earth. Now this was an indoor attraction where 2 riders would be sat side by side in a suspended car and you'd traverse in and out of the show building that was themed to the world of musicals and circuses. Up until 1997, the greatest show on earth was actually located in the old Paradise Room, albeit on a much smaller scale. It was then moved, improved and redeveloped in a grand building that was located where the Burger King stands today on the South Park. It was a strange yet intriguing indoor dark ride that was built and developed in-house at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. The ride operated in one way or another between 1978 and 1998 before it was eventually scrapped to make way for new developments. So coming in at number 6, it's the iconic Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark opened in the park in around 1922 and it was the first ride to open alongside the Virginia Reel after the First World War. Although not operating, you can still see Noah's Ark standing proud above the entrance to the park to this day, albeit on a much smaller scale than it used to be. The walkthrough attraction, based on the biblical vessel of Noah, was first designed by a chap called Leroy Raymond, and the first example of the ride appeared at Venice Pier in California in 1919. Funnily enough, there's only one remaining Noah's Ark in operation, and that's at Kennywood Park over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Although the main part of the ride, the Ark itself, is still visible at the park, the ride hasn't been in operation since 2008. So that takes us to the halfway point in the video, and coming in hot at number 5, it's the Monorail. Blackpool Pleasure Beach purchased the Monorail back in 1964 from the Lausanne Expo over in Switzerland. The ride then opened at the park in 1966 and was a marvel of technology at the time. Upon opening, the monorail had 4 trains, 1 enclosed, 2 partially enclosed and 1 fully open. It would traverse around the park and stop at 2 major stations, 1 beside the car and coach parks and 1 right at the heart of the Pleasure Beach. Later on, only the central station remained in operation before it was eventually removed in 2012. So that takes us nicely on to number 4, the Gold Mine. The gold mine originally opened at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in 1971 and was created by Aerodynamics. This continued a long-standing relationship with the park, as they'd also created Alice in Wonderland and the Grand Prix, and of course were later to develop the Pepsi Max Big One. The ride would take you down deep into a mine where you could experience what it was like to work alongside the miners. The ride took inspiration from the Calico Mine Ride over at Knott's Berry Farm in California, and also inspired John Wardley to create the wacky gold mine at Barry Island Pleasure Park. Unfortunately, the gold mine was closed forever on September 25th, 2011, but lucky for us, was transformed into the Wallace and Gromit Thrill-O-Matic ride that can be enjoyed at the park to this day. So here we are, we've finally made it to my top 3 lost rides of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. And coming in at number 3, it's Space Invader. Space Invader originally opened in the park on the 21st of August 1984 and was the 4th steel roller coaster to be opened at the Pleasure Beach. The roller coaster, created by the German manufacturer Sierra, was located inside a large show building, which itself was themed to look like a planet. This dark indoor roller coaster would have you whizzing past effects and scenery, and at the time was a fantastic addition to the Pleasure Beach. The ride was fully refurbished in 2003 by Comeback Coasters and reopened in the 2004 season as Space Invader 2, where it operated up until the 2008 season. It then stood standing but not operating up until 2010, when it was purchased by Breen Leisure Park and reopened for the 2011 season under the name Astrostorm. Space Invader is still in operation over at Breen Leisure Park as Astrostorm for anybody who wants to go and experience the ride today. It's located inside a custom show building and recreates a very similar ride to the original over at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So, coming in at number 2, it's Drench Falls, or as some people may know it, the Log Flume. Upon opening in 1967, Blackpool Pleasure Beach's Log Flume was the longest in the world. It stood thrilling and soaking riders for almost 40 years before it was removed in 2006 to make way for Infusion. Enthusiasts and the public alike were sad to see this monumental ride go, and still to this day, I can't help but feel Blackpool Pleasure Beach is missing a really good Log Flume. Although by today's standards, the ride was nothing special. On a hot day at a busy Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it was always the go-to ride mid-afternoon to cool you off in the height of those Blackpool summers. And I have no doubts that I'm not the only one who misses the classic Log Flume. So here we are, we finally made it to number 1, and taking my top spot, it's the Wild Mouse. The classic Wild Mouse opened in the park in 1958 and was held in high regard as one of the finest and most extreme examples of a wooden Wild Mouse coaster in the world. Both design and construction of the Wild Mouse begun in 1955 and was done completely in-house by Blackpool Pleasure Beach. The ride, designed by Frank Wright and opened in 1958, was the first major ride to be built at Blackpool Pleasure Beach since the end of World War II. In around the 1960s, the ride was remodelled and improved by the Valeur brothers, who added an extra layer to the coaster and refined the ride into the layout we knew and loved for years. The ride stood at around 50 feet, had a track length of 1,266 feet and hit a maximum speed of 35 miles per hour. After remaining closed for the majority of the 2017 season, the ride was removed indefinitely in January 2018 to make way for future developments. Lots of fans of the rides were hugely disappointed at the fact Blackpool Pleasure Beach hadn't given them an opportunity for a final ride on the coaster. Unfortunately, Blackpool Pleasure Beach opened in 2018 without the Wild Mouse present. It's safe to say this coaster is sorely missed by the general public and enthusiasts alike, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who would have loved to have taken one last spin on the classic Wild Mouse before its departure. And that's going to wrap up my top 10 lost rides of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you agree with my list? And what are your thoughts on the rides featured? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Lee from Inversion Addicts. Until next time, take care.